Chapter 61. The Fourth Commandment. Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 to 11. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 to 11. One of the clearest distinguishing marks of Christianity is its requirement of a unity of faith and life, for faith without works is dead. James chapter 2, verse 26. As against Pharisaic formalism, St. Paul declared, "For he is not a Jew which is one outwardly, but he is a Jew which is one inwardly." Romans chapter 2, verses 28 and 29. This fact applies clearly to all the law and certainly to the Fourth Commandment. According to Leviticus chapter 23, verses 1 to 3, "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, Concerning the feasts of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts. 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest and holy convocation. Ye shall do no work therein, it is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings." God classifies the Sabbath as a feast day. The idea of a joyless Sabbath is a contradiction. The old-fashioned Sunday dinner and family gathering, inclusive of kinsfolk, is in terms of Leviticus chapter 23, verses 1 to 3. The Sabbath as a feast day, a celebration of rest. A weekly feast day is God's mandate. Another text is also revelatory. Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 12. "Moreover, also I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between me and them, that they may know that I am the Lord that sanctify them." The Hebrew word for sign is oth, meaning a signal, omen, prodigy, or evidence. It implies a miraculous appearing. The Sabbath is a sign in this sense between God and his covenant people. God made heaven and earth, and all that's in them is, in 6 days, and rested the seventh day. Exodus chapter 20, verse 11. Because God is the absolute sovereign, and because known unto God are all his works from the beginning of the world. Acts chapter 15, verse 18. There are no surprises or new events for God in time and eternity. God rests in his total government and providence, his absolute control of all things. The Sabbath, God's ordained rest for us, is a sign for us because it is a weekly remembrance that the future does not depend upon us, but upon God, and we rest in the confidence of his victory. It is a feast day because of this fact. As Christians especially, we rejoice that he, upon whose shoulder is the government of all things, has come. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. Calvin saw 3 purposes in the Sabbath rest. For it was the design of the heavenly lawgiver, under the rest of the seventh day, to give the people of Israel a figure of the spiritual rest by which the faithful ought to refrain from their own works, in order to leave God to work within them. His design was, secondly, that there should be a stated day on which they might assemble together to hear the law and perform the ceremonies, or at least which they might especially devote to meditations on his works, that by this recollection they might be led to the exercises of piety. Thirdly, he thought it right that servants and persons living under the jurisdiction of others should be indulged with a day of rest, that they might enjoy some remission from their labours. With respect to Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 12, Calvin added, "We must rest altogether, that God may operate within us." Calvin saw the Sabbath abrogated as man's rest because Jesus Christ is our rest, the true fulfillment of the Sabbath. It is now, he said, a day of worship and prayer and rest from labour. The abrogation was for him in the relocation of rest, primarily in Christ rather than in the day. The term Sabbath is applied not only to the seventh day and the seventh year, but also to the Day of Atonement, clearly indicating the relationship of rest to redemption. Before Exodus, we have no reference to Sabbath observance. Some see the use of the word remember as evidence of prior observances. However, we routinely use the word remember in instruction to stress something important. The Sabbath is a covenantal day, and its proper observance requires national participation. While family and church observances are essential, they are partial. A covenantal nation and people is the goal of the Sabbath. The Sabbath was introduced to Israel just before the law was given, when the rules of manna gathering were set forth in Exodus chapter 16, verses 16 to 31. The fourth and fifth commandments differ from the other 8 in being positive statements. Remember the Sabbath day and honour thy father and thy mother. The others are all negative. Thou shalt not. Because law is a restraint on sin, laws generally must be negative. They are a restraint upon man and also upon civil government, whose concern must be to restrain evildoers. To honour father and mother is a personal command to further the authority of family life, and the Sabbath commandment in this form again calls for positive action in observance rather than restraint. The positive aspect is very clear. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Verse 8. It is to be a separate and dedicated day. It requires a cessation of labour in order to celebrate God's feast day, a day of assurance in God's victory and our rest therein. It is important to remember that animals are included in the Sabbath rest. In earlier years, when animals were the means of transportation, many people would give the horses, which carried them to church, extra oats on their return so that horses would also have their feast day and rest for the remainder of the Sabbath. The Hebrew Sabbath was observed from sundown the night before until the morning after, and many Christians keep a like observance. In verse 11, we are told that God commands the Sabbath rest as our Creator. Because He is the Creator, He establishes the rules of life, and the Sabbath is such a rule. We are therefore to keep the Sabbath as a means of respect for God and for the life He has given us. The day of rest is a day of feasting and worship because He so ordains it. In God's law, all fasting on the Sabbath, except for the Day of Atonement, is forbidden. Jewish practice excluded mourning on the Sabbath, as does Christian usage. Nor are funerals held on the Sabbath. More than 50 years ago, Chief Rabbi Hertz of England predicted that Without the observance of the olden Sabbath, of the Sabbath as perfected by the rabbis, the whole of Jewish life would in time disappear. Honeycutt tellingly called attention to the dedication of the first fruits to God. The whole of the crop was compressed into the first offering. This was the principle of par pro toto. The part shall stand for the whole. This also applies to the Sabbath. It represents the whole of the week to follow. All of time is dedicated to God in the observance of the one day. By refraining from his own efforts on that day, man effectually recognized divine ownership. Thus, all time belonged to God, as did the whole of the creation. Just as all of the grain, grapes, flock, herd, fruit, etc. belonged to him, and man acknowledged this by sacrificing a part of the whole in lieu of the whole, so in case of the Sabbath, man sanctified a part of the week, and in so doing acknowledged that, in reality, the whole was the Lord's. Rest allowed the whole of creation to return to its primal condition with the Lord. The Sabbath finds expression also in the rest decreed for the seventh year and in Jubilee. In pagan cultures, work is seen as misery, and the goal is an escape from work through wealth. Escapism is both a religious and an economic goal. George Rawlinson observed, "His law of the Sabbath established a conformity between the method of his own working and that of his reasonable creatures, and taught men to look on work not as an aimless, indefinite, incessant, weary rounds, but as leading to an end, a rest, a fruition, a time for looking back and seeing the result and rejoicing in it. Each Sabbath is such a time and is a type and foretaste of that eternal Sabbathizing in another world which remaineth for the people of God." Hebrews chapter 4, verse 9. Time is not, for us, a dreary round leading only unto death. Despite its ugly discoloration by sin, it is a glorious process of redemption. Time is God's feast time for man. The 6 days have their griefs and troubles, but on the seventh we declare our faith and celebrate life and victory.